Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Susan.
There has been a lot of discussion in the opinion pages about whether or not Governor Romney should make this speech, and if so, should he make it at this time. As a politician yourself, what are your thoughts on the timing and the speech as a necessity?
Well, I suggested to him that he not do it, he let it evolve over time. I think the slipping of Fred Thompson and the movement of Thompson's support over to Huckabee has probably been a significant part of his thinking, I think, in deciding to deliver the speech. And the idea is important. The idea that in America, religion plays a profoundly important role is probably something that people will resonate to.
What should he say and what should he not say in order to advance his cause today, do you think?
Well, I think it's almost impossible to deal with the doctrine of any church. I mean, the reason we have so many different Christian churches is because there are variations. And frankly, most Americans aren't very aware of what their own churches believe. And so talking about doctrine probably is not helpful. But talking about fundamental concepts of the role that religion plays in our society, of the role it should play in government, of the nature of the separation between religion and the state, those things I think are very appropriate, and frankly, we are due for a good reminder of those things in America.
As a Mormon politician yourself, do you think overall the raised visibility of the Mormon church and Mormon religion would be a good thing for the country?
I think that we've had a sort of spiritual rebirth, nothing like the Great Awakening of 150 years ago or anything, but I think people began to look at this pretty thoughtfully during the Clinton years, and then with the attacks on the Boy Scouts and on the Pledge of Allegiance, people have been pretty clear across America that we actually want God in our public life. If you look at my colleagues, there are very few, I think only one, who professes no religion. And I recently was part of a press conference where there were many members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and we all spoke about the Second Chance Act was the issue. But it was like being at a revival. Many of these of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus have been preachers. And Danny Davis, who has that wonderful basso voice, pointed out that he can't sing, so that's why he became a preacher. But he's actually, I don't think he was a preacher, but he's very religiously active, and he does preach and give eloquent speeches. We are in Congress a very religious group of people, and when issues of religion come up, we vote overwhelmingly in favor of maintaining religion in our public life. And so I think there's been a great reconsideration in America of the role of religion, and I think it's definitively come down as being important. But an academic speech where a presidential candidate steps back and actually talks about it in some detail, I think is actually going to be profoundly good for the country. Are
you going to stop your busy day on Capitol Hill to watch the speech this morning?
I'm going to try and adjust my calendar, yes.
And what do you make of the decision to have it at the Bush Presidential Library?
Well, I was deeply intrigued by that, and Bob Novak credits Ron Kaufman, who's the national committee man in Massachusetts, and very close to George Bush Sr. and to the current president, and a friend of mine for a very long time. The first guy to broach the subject of Mitt Romney running with me was Ron Kaufman, and he may have played a significant role in that. I don't know what it actually means. The introduction of the former president, I think, is significant because he represents a person whose faith has not been front and center, but a person who is clearly viewed as a man of faith. And so I think that the effect of that is to say, in America we have diversity of religion, but we have fundamental concepts that we hold in common.
Representative Cannon, thank you very much for being part of our discussion this morning.
Always a pleasure.
Congressman Chris Cannon of Utah. David Campbell, what did you hear in that conversation you'd like to comment on?
Well, I think it's interesting to note, as Representative Cannon was speaking, he was, I think, reaffirming the point that I was making about we live in a time in which Americans are very comfortable with